You mentioned that India ultimately becomes like the leading exporter of software services. What does that mean? I mean, could you paint a picture on what that essentially, like, what are we exporting?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So it includes all kinds of stuff. So some things that people are very familiar with related to kind of business process outsourcing, right? Like, so that's like, a lot of the call center stuff that people, that's more tangible. You call up in the US, anytime I have a problem and I make a phone call, I have a problem with the internet at home, I call my internet provider, it's someone in India that's helping me out. Or I call the airline, there's someone in India that's helping me out, right? But that's kind of something that people are familiar with. What's more hard to explain is the fact that a lot of organizations will just need simple things done for their, so for I teach at a university, right? We need to create for our university a system where we can upload all our lectures and grade the students' stuff and kind of keep track of who's attending class and so on. And so we need a much more customized software, right, for that, right? What can happen? You can get someone from TCS to show up on site to my university here, set up that system. That person, that TCS person, essentially who comes in person, will be speaking to the university administrators to kind of understand what they really need. But he doesn't sit here and do the coding. He sends the code, all the software development to his office in India. So in India, they then set up the entire infrastructure. Then they send it back. The TCS guy shows the university administrators how to use the system. They say, oh, actually, we want to tweak it this way. We want the students to be able to see their grades the moment it's uploaded. Then he sends those messages back to India. They change it. So you're exporting kind of all these kind of software services, right? But the immigrant who came on the H-1B visa, who's working for TCS, also plays an important role there, right, in sending some of that work back, right? And then there is, of course, the other kind of work, which is Google will just set up an office in India, right? Or, US kind of startups will set up offices in India where they will say, okay, we are kind of, they will do all the new product development in Silicon Valley, but we need a bunch of code to be written for this, here. So they'll give you fixed instructions. So we need you to write this code for this application we're building. So it won't actually be innovation that's happening in India, but the coding task has kind of been sent to India, right? And that then gets exported back to the US, right? So all of that is kind of shows up as IT exports, essentially.
Has the nature of jobs that have been outsourced or the tasks that have been outsourced changed at all? Like, guessing, like, part of me obviously is like, sure. I mean, again, my guess is that initially, maybe, like you mentioned, call center work was being outsourced. And I'm guessing as and when they understand that, the capability of Indian engineers in Bangalore or Hyderabad is to the par of Silicon Valley engineer, they either outsource more work like product development. Is that fair, or am I missing some linkages here?
Yeah, I think it's definitely changed in the sense that they've been getting more and more confident and comfortable with kind of sending the work to India, and which means they just kind of what that means is they send more and more high level work, right? The other thing is like they'll so there's this new phenomenon, these global capability centers. I don't know if you've been following these GCCs, right? So they've been kind of setting up GCCs in India where you'll have the companies coming and essentially it's a way for technology transfer to also occur in some way. They say that, okay, we are bringing kind of this technology, we'll bring some of our workers from the US as well. And we'll hire a lot of the workers here in India and we'll do a lot of high level product development in India in that case, right? So the nature of work has really changed a lot, I think. And I think the big inflection point there was actually Y2K, because with Y2K, they had sent a lot of the low level coding. And then they said, oh, like these guys did it so well. They sent all the low level coding to fix all the Y2K. Back they were like, oh, Indians did a great job. And
I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, Gaurav. If you can maybe talk us to, let us know what is the Y2K problem and, and how did that accidentally maybe help India?
Yeah. So basically what happened is, the computing systems that were set up, right, had a lot of kind of code written in a way that was, in some ways probably not as forward looking, that at the change of the millennium, all the dates would change, right? Like, and so you needed to essentially go in and change a lot of kind of these back end codes, right? Now, you're not coming up with a new product. You're not coming up with a new type of word processor or game or something like that. You're literally your existing product. I need to change some amount of the backend code, because when the millennium hits and all the dates change, then the software is essentially functional, is what the fear was, right? So they said, okay, in the US, they said, okay, that's a lot of backend coding that we don't want to deal with. Let's send it to India. So India did a lot of that work, right? And we did a really good job of it, right? I mean, people didn't really notice the Y2K. There was really not that much of a kind of effect on stuff, right? And after that, they started sending more and more work, right? Like that kind of really helped build the reputation for kind of offshoring, because before that they had gotten the migrants to the US, but there was this notion that those migrants have to be in Silicon Valley for them to be good coders. But with the Y2K stuff, they sent stuff to India, and they said, oh wait, we can send more and more work to India, right? So that really helped kind of send kind of more high level stuff as well down the road.